The shuttle descended through clouds that shimmered like broken glass. Taman watched through the viewport as the alien world grew larger below him. 5 years had passed since the war ended, but his hands still trembled when he thought about this place. The Veltaran homeworld looked peaceful from space, all crystal towers and flowing water. But Taman knew better. He had seen what these aliens could do in battle. "Captain, we're approaching the landing zone," Hana said from the pilot seat. She was his second in command, a good soldier who had saved his life twice during the war. "You ready for this?" Taman nodded but said nothing. How could he tell her the truth? How could he explain that somewhere down there the woman he loved was waiting for him, and she would not remember his face? The shuttle touched down in a courtyard of white stone. Veltaran guards stood in perfect formation, their skin glowing with soft blue light. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with eyes that seemed to look right through a person. Taman had learned not to fear them once upon a time. Now he was not sure what he felt. Ambassador Minho straightened his uniform. He was older than Taman, with gray hair and tired eyes. "Remember why we're here," he said quietly. "The peace treaty is fragile. We cannot afford mistakes. I understand, sir. Do you?" Minho's gaze was sharp. "I read your file, Captain. I know you spent time behind enemy lines during the war. I know there are gaps in your mission reports. Whatever happened to you here, you need to put it aside. We represent all of humanity now." Taman wanted to laugh. Put it aside, as if he could simply forget her. As if 6 years of missing someone could be switched off like a light. They walked through corridors that hurt to look at directly. Everything on this world was made of crystal that caught light and bent it into impossible colors. Veltaran citizens stopped to stare at the human delegation. Some looked curious, others looked angry. The war had cost both sides dearly. The throne room doors opened without sound. Taman's breath caught in his chest. The room was vast, carved from a single piece of blue crystal. Light poured through the walls, creating patterns that moved like living things. But Taman saw none of it. His eyes found her immediately. She sat on a throne that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Her skin glowed brighter than the others, a sure sign of power among her people. She wore robes of white and silver, and on her head rested a crown that looked like frozen starlight. Her face was exactly as he remembered. The same sharp features, the same elegant curve of her neck, but her eyes were different, cold, distant. This was Aaron. His Aaron. But also not his at all. "The human delegation," announced a Veltaran official. Led by Ambassador Minho and Captain Taman, Minho stepped forward and bowed. Taman forced himself to do the same, though his legs felt weak. "Welcome to Veltara," Queen Erin said. Her voice was like music, just as he remembered. "We are pleased that humanity has sent representatives to discuss peace." She looked at each member of the delegation. When her eyes reached Taman, they paused. She tilted her head slightly, studying him with an expression he could not read. "You," she said, pointing at him. "Come closer." Taman's heart hammered in his chest. He walked forward until he stood at the base of her throne. Up close, he could see she had not changed at all. The same small scar above her left eye where she had cut herself on laboratory equipment. The same way she held her hands, fingers interlaced. But her eyes showed nothing. No recognition, no warmth. "You seem familiar," Queen Erin said slowly. "Have we met before?" The words hit him like a physical blow. Taman struggled to keep his face neutral. "Perhaps in passing during the war, Your Majesty. I served on the front lines." "No." She leaned forward, her glowing eyes searching his face. "It feels like more than that. Like I should know you." She frowned, and for a moment pain flickered across her features. Then it was gone, replaced by cold curiosity. "Strange. I do not usually forget faces." "Perhaps you have met many humans," Minho said smoothly, stepping forward. "The war brought both our peoples into contact frequently." Erin sat back. "Perhaps," but she did not sound convinced. "We will begin negotiations tomorrow. Tonight you are our guest. Please rest. This has been a long journey for you." They were dismissed with a wave of her hand. As Taman turned to leave, he felt her eyes on his back. He wanted to run. He wanted to turn around and tell her everything. Instead, he walked out of the throne room with measured steps, his face showing nothing. In the guest quarters, Hana found him standing by the window. "That was intense," she said. "The Queen seemed very interested in you. She was curious. Nothing more. Taman." Hana's voice was gentle. She was one of the few who called him by his first name. "I've known you for 3 years. I've never seen you look the way you did when you saw her." He said nothing. What could he say? "Whatever happened during those missing months of your file," Hannah continued, "I hope it won't compromise the mission." It won't. But even as he said it, Taman knew it was a lie. Seeing Erin again, seeing her look at him like a stranger, had torn open a wound he thought had scarred over. He remembered everything. The first time she had found him, bleeding and half dead in her laboratory. The way she had risked her life to hide him. The long nights talking about their worlds, their hopes, their fears. The moment he realized he loved her. The desperate plan they had made to end the war. And then the silence. The terrible silence after everything went wrong. He had searched for her after the war ended. For months he had tried to find any information about a Veltaran scientist named Aaron. There had been nothing. No records. No mentions. It was as if she had vanished completely. Until 3 weeks ago, when he learned that the Veltaran queen would be leading the peace negotiations. He had seen her picture and nearly collapsed. She was alive, but she did not remember him. That night, Taman could not sleep. He lay in the alien bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered what had happened to her. What had they done to his brilliant, compassionate Aaron to turn her into that cold queen? Somewhere in this palace, she was probably also awake. Did she dream of him? Did some part of her remember? Or had they erased him so completely that nothing remained? Tomorrow, negotiations would begin. He would have to sit across from her and pretend to be a stranger. He would have to watch her and not reach out. He would have to hear her voice and not tell her that once in another life she had told him she loved him. Taman closed his eyes. The mission was clear. Secure the peace treaty. Represent humanity. Do not let personal feelings interfere. But as he finally drifted toward sleep, he made himself a different promise. He would find out what happened to her. He would learn why she could not remember. And if there was any way, any chance at all, he would help her remember who she used to be, even if it cost him everything. The memory came to Taman during the morning briefing, sharp and sudden as a knife wound. He was supposed to be listening to Ambassador Minho discuss negotiation strategies, but instead, he was 6 years in the past, bleeding out in the snow. The crash had been bad. 3 members of his squad dead on impact. Taman had crawled from the wreckage with a piece of shrapnel in his side, and enemy forces closing in from all directions. He had known he was going to die. The only question was whether it would be from blood loss or a Veltaran weapon. He had stumbled through a blizzard, leaving a trail of red in the white snow. When he finally collapsed, he thought he saw lights. A building. Then nothing. "Captain?" Minho's voice pulled him back to the present. "Your thoughts on the proposal?" Taman blinked, focusing. They were in a conference room deep within the palace. Hannah was watching him with concern. "I agree with the ambassador's assessment," he said, though he had no idea what had been proposed. After the briefing ended, Hannah cornered him in the hallway. "You're not yourself. What's going on?" "Nothing. That's a lie." She crossed her arms. "Look, I know you've been through hell. We all have. But this mission is too important. If you can't handle being here, I can handle it," Taman said sharply. Then softer, "I'm sorry. You're right. I'm distracted. Is it the Queen?" Everything was the Queen. But Taman just shook his head. "I'll be fine for the negotiations this afternoon." He was not fine. The negotiation room was smaller than the throne room, but no less impressive. A table of clear crystal stood in the center, surrounded by chairs that seemed to grow from the floor. Queen Erin arrived with 3 advisors, all of them watching the humans with barely concealed suspicion. She wore simpler robes today, dark blue instead of white, but she still wore the crown, still carried herself with that cold authority. Taman sat at Minho's right hand and tried not to stare. "We should begin with the matter of reparations," one of Erin's advisors said. His name was Lord Dowan, and Taman disliked him immediately. "The human attack on our colony at Redus Prime caused—" "The attack was retaliatory," Minho interrupted smoothly. "After Veltaran forces destroyed our research station at Kepler 442b, which was after human ships violated our space because your empire blockaded 3 trade routes." Taman had heard this argument 1,000 times, both sides claiming the other started it, both sides with legitimate grievances and blood on their hands. It was what had made the war so bitter. There were no clear villains. Just two peoples who had met in the worst possible way. He watched Aaron as the arguments went back and forth. She listened carefully, her face showing nothing. Once she had been so expressive. He had loved watching her think, the way her eyes would light up when she understood something new. Captain Taman, she said suddenly, and his attention snapped to her. You served on the front lines. Tell me, in your opinion, who started this war? It was a trap question. Answer wrong and he would offend the Velterans. Answer right and he would anger his own people. But Taman found he was too tired for political games. Both sides, he said quietly. And neither. Wars don't start with a single person or action. They build over time. Misunderstanding by misunderstanding, fear by fear. By the time the shooting starts, everyone has convinced themselves they're the victim. The room went silent. Lord Dowan looked furious. Minho looked worried. But Aaron tilted her head, studying Taman with that strange intensity again. An interesting perspective, she said. Not many soldiers would admit their side shares blame. I've seen what war does to people, Taman said. On both sides. There's no winning. Just surviving. Something flickered in her eyes. Pain? Recognition? It was gone too fast to tell. Perhaps you are right, she said softly. Then louder, let us recess for today. This is complex and we should not rush. After she left, Minho pulled Taman aside. That was risky. It was honest. Honesty can be dangerous in diplomacy. But Minho did not sound angry. Still, I think you may have earned her respect. She seemed to respond to you. Taman said nothing. He was remembering another conversation years ago. He had woken in a sterile room, strapped to a medical table. The pain in his side was gone, replaced by a dull ache. For a moment he had thought he was captured. Then he saw her. She was young, probably close to his age. Her skin glowed faintly, and she wore the simple clothes of a researcher, not a soldier. She was examining a datapad, muttering to herself in her own language. Where am I? Taman had asked in rough Veltaran. He had learned some of the language before deployment. She had jumped, nearly dropping the pad. You're awake. You shouldn't be awake. I gave you enough sedative to keep you unconscious for hours. Humans metabolize drugs differently, he had managed to say. Who are you? Why am I not in a prison? She had hesitated, then moved closer. My name is Aaron. I'm a xenobiologist. I found you in the snow outside my research station. You were dying, so you saved me. Why? Because you were dying, she had said, as if it were obvious. I'm a scientist, not a soldier. I preserve life. I don't take it. Your people will execute you for helping me. Then they won't find out. She had smiled, and it had transformed her face. You're a problem I intend to solve, human. Starting with those wounds, that had been the beginning. 6 months of living in secret, hidden in storage rooms and abandoned lab spaces. 6 months of Aaron risking everything to keep him alive. 6 months of falling in love with someone he was supposed to see as an enemy. Taman? Hana's voice broke through the memory. You're doing it again. Going somewhere else. He realized he was standing alone in the empty negotiation room. Everyone else had left. Sorry, I was just thinking. About what happened during the war? Yes. Hana moved closer, her voice gentle. I know the official story says you were recovered from a prisoner camp. But the timeline doesn't match. You were missing for 6 months before the prisoner exchange. No one knows where you were. Taman looked at her. Hana was smart. She had probably figured out more than she was saying. If I told you, he said slowly, that I spent those 6 months with someone who saved my life, someone who showed me that the enemy was not what I thought, would you believe me? Yes, Hana said without hesitation. I would. And if I told you that person was now sitting on that throne with no memory of any of it? Hana's eyes widened. The Queen? You and the Queen? She wasn't a queen then. She was a scientist, a kind person who believed in something better than war. Taman's voice cracked. We were going to end it together. We had evidence of corruption, proof that military contractors on both sides were prolonging the conflict for profit. We were going to expose everything. What happened? I don't know. We were discovered. I was captured by my own forces, ironically, accused of being a traitor. By the time I convinced them of the truth, by the time I was released, she was gone. No records, no trace, like she never existed. Until now. Until now. Taman agreed. But she doesn't remember. Something happened to her, Hana. Something terrible. And I need to find out what. Hana was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, okay, what do you need? Information. The Velterans have archives. If I can access them, that's treason. Probably. Count me in anyway, Hana said firmly. If what you're saying is true, if there really was a conspiracy to keep the war going, then the peace treaty is built on lies. We have a right to know the truth. Taman felt a wave of gratitude. Thank you. That night, while the palace slept, they began their search. But what they would find in those archives would change everything. Erin could not sleep. She stood on her private balcony, looking out over the Crystal City, and tried to understand why the human haunted her thoughts. Captain Taman. Even his name felt strange in her mind. Familiar but foreign, like a word she had forgotten the meaning of. She touched her temple where a dull ache had started the moment she first saw him. It happened sometimes, these headaches. The royal physician said they were normal, a side effect of the stress of ruling. But this felt different. This felt like something trying to break through. Your Majesty. Her attendant, a young woman named Mirai, approached carefully. Should I bring your medication? No. Erin lowered her hand. I'm fine. Just tired, but she was not tired. She was confused and frustrated and feeling things she did not understand. When she looked at the human captain, something in her chest pulled tight. When he spoke, his voice resonated in a way that made her want to move closer. And when he had said that thing about war, about blame and survival, she had felt tears threatening for reasons she could not name. It made no sense. She was the queen. She did not cry over pretty words from humans. Mirai, she said suddenly, bring me my personal file. Everything recorded from when I became queen. Your Majesty, it's very late. Now, please. Mirai bowed and hurried off. Erin returned to staring at the city. 5 years she had ruled. 5 years of making decisions, negotiating treaties, leading her people through the difficult peace. She was good at it. Everyone said so. But sometimes, in quiet moments like this, she felt like she was playing a role. Like the real Erin was somewhere else, watching, unable to speak. Mirai returned with a data crystal. Erin took it to her private study and loaded it into the reader. Her own face appeared in the hologram, younger by 5 years. She was lying in a medical bed, eyes closed. Subject Erin, a voice said. It was Lord Dowan, though the recording did not show him. The procedure is complete. Memory wipe successful. All records of her previous life have been integrated into her new identity as planned. Erin's blood went cold. She paused the recording. Memory wipe. Her previous life. New identity. With shaking hands, she resumed playback. The hologram showed her younger self waking up, confused and disoriented. Dowan's voice continued. You are Erin, member of the royal family. Your parents died when you were young. You were raised in the palace. You have been groomed for leadership your entire life. And she watched herself accept this, watched herself nod and believe and become the person they told her to be. The recording ended. Erin sat in silence, her heart racing. She had been someone else. Someone before. Someone with different memories, different experiences, a different life. And they had taken it away, but who was she? And why had they done this? She spent the rest of the night searching through restricted files, using her royal access to bypass security. She found gaps, entire periods of time with no records, documents that referenced the scientist but never gave details. And finally, buried deep in classified military files, she found a name. Xenobiologist Erin. No family name, no rank. Just a note that said dealt with and a date from 6 years ago. The date was 1 month after the war ended. Erin felt sick. She had been a scientist. They had taken that from her, erased who she was and made her into a queen. But why? What had she done? What had she known? She thought of Captain Taman, the way he had looked at her, like he was seeing someone else, someone he knew. You seem familiar, she had said to him. Because he did. Because somewhere deep inside, in a place they could not fully erase, she recognized him. Erin stood abruptly. She needed answers, and she knew exactly who to ask. She found Taman in the palace gardens the next morning. He was alone, sitting by a fountain, staring at nothing. He looked tired, sad. When he noticed her approaching, he quickly stood and bowed. Your Majesty. I didn't expect. Walk with me, Erin said. It was not a request. They walked in silence through paths lined with plants from a dozen worlds. The garden was her favorite place in the palace. Sometimes she thought she could almost remember being here before. Though that was impossible. She'd only become queen 5 years ago. Or had she? You're troubled, Taman said quietly. I don't remember my childhood, Aaron said, watching him carefully. I have images, stories I've been told, but no real memories. I thought it was normal. Some people have bad memory, but it's not normal, is it? Taman's face went pale. Your Majesty, I don't— The truth, Captain. She stopped walking and turned to face him. When I said you seemed familiar, you knew why. I could see it in your eyes. We have met before, haven't we? Before I became queen? Yes, he said, and his voice was rough with emotion. We met during the war. Tell me. I can't. Your Majesty, the peace treaty— Forget the peace treaty. Aaron's voice rose and she forced herself to calm down. I am a person before I am a queen. Something was taken from me. My memories, my past. Maybe even myself. And I think you know what happened? Please. The last word came out as a whisper. A plea. Taman looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, You saved my life. I was a crashed pilot, wounded and dying. You found me and hid me in your research station. You were a xenobiologist studying alien life forms. You were kind and curious and saw people, not sides in a war. Aaron felt tears on her face. She did not remember crying. What else? We talked. For months. You taught me about your culture, your language, your world. I told you about Earth, about humanity, about everything I loved and missed. We became friends. He paused and something painful crossed his face. More than friends. How much more? We loved each other, Taman said simply. And we planned to end the war. You had found evidence of corruption, proof that military contractors were prolonging the conflict for profit. We were going to expose it together. But something went wrong. What happened to me? I don't know. I was captured by my own forces. By the time I was free again, you had vanished. No records, no trace. I searched for 2 years. Then I gave up. His voice broke. I thought you were dead. Until I saw your picture 3 weeks ago and learned you were the queen. Aaron touched her temple, where the headache was growing worse. I don't remember any of it. But when I look at you, I feel something. Like I should know you. Like there's a hole inside me shaped like memories I can't reach. They took them from you, Taman said, anger creeping into his voice. Someone did this. Erased who you were and made you into what they needed. Who?
I don't know yet.
But I'm going to find out. Aaron looked at him. This human who claimed to have loved her in another life. His eyes were sincere, desperate, and something in her responded to that desperation, recognized it as familiar. I found files, she said, about a memory wipe procedure, about creating a new identity for me. Lord Dowan's voice was in the recording. Taman's expression darkened. Dowan, he's one of your advisors, isn't he? Yes, he's been with me since I became queen. Guiding me, teaching me. The words tasted bitter now. Controlling me. He's part of it then. The conspiracy. He had you erased and made you queen to control the throne by— But why? Why not just kill me? Because dead you might become a martyr. People might ask questions. But alive, transformed into a queen, you're useful. A puppet who doesn't even know she has strings. Aaron felt rage building inside her. I want to remember. Is there a way? I don't know. Human neurology is different from yours, but there might be someone who could help. Taman hesitated. It would be dangerous. If Dowan finds out what you're trying to do, I don't care, Aaron said fiercely. I want my life back. I want to know who I was, who I am. Taman looked at her, and for the first time since they met, he smiled. It was sad and warm at the same time. There you are. That's the Aaron I knew, brave and stubborn and unwilling to accept easy lies. Will you help me? Always, he said. I never stopped trying to find you. I won't stop now. They made plans quietly as they walked. Taman had a contact, another Velteron who might help, someone who had reasons to distrust Dowan. They would need to move carefully. But Aaron felt more alive than she had in 5 years. That afternoon, Aaron found something else. It was in her personal quarters in a locked box she did not remember putting there. Inside was a bracelet made from rough human fabric, crude but carefully woven. She held it and felt warmth spread through her chest. She did not remember making this, did not remember receiving it. But she knew somehow that it was important, that it connected her to a past she needed to reclaim. That night she slept with the bracelet on her wrist and dreamed of a laboratory, gentle hands, and a voice whispering that everything would be okay. Instructor Bora lived in the old quarter of the city, far from the palace where most officials resided. She was a historian and scholar, someone who had taught at the Royal Academy for 40 years. She was also someone who owed Taman a debt, though she did not know it yet. "You want access to classified war archives," Bora said, her old eyes studying Taman and Hana carefully. "That's treason."
"Why would I help you?"
"Because you lost your son in the war," Taman said quietly. "And I think you've always suspected it didn't have to happen the way it did." Bora's face tightened. "You know nothing about my son. I know he died at the Battle of Corvus. I was there. I saw what happened." Taman leaned forward. "We were winning. Both sides were exhausted, and there was talk of peace. Then suddenly new weapons appeared, advanced tech that neither side should have had. The battle turned into a massacre." "My son was a good soldier," Bora said, but her voice was uncertain. "Your son was murdered for profit," Taman said bluntly. "Someone wanted that war to continue. Someone with resources and connections on both sides. I think you've suspected this for years. I think that's why you're still searching for answers." Silence filled the small room. Finally, Bora stood and walked to a locked cabinet. From it, she pulled a data crystal. "I've been collecting evidence for 5 years," she said. "Nothing concrete. Just patterns. Strange orders. Money trails that disappear. Soldiers who asked too many questions and ended up dead. But I'm old and I'm tired, and I don't have the resources to pursue this alone." She handed the crystal to Taman. "If you're serious about finding the truth, start here. But be careful. Whatever you're digging into, people have killed to keep it secret." They spent the rest of the day in Bora's study, going through files. The picture that emerged was damning. Military contracts awarded to the same companies on both sides. Weapons dealers who sold to both humans and Veltarans. Politicians who spoke of peace while investing in weapons manufacturers. And at the center of it all, a network of individuals who had grown rich on blood. One name kept appearing. Lord Dowan. "He's been involved in military affairs for decades," Bora said. "He was a minor official during the war, but his power grew rapidly after it ended. Now he's one of the Queen's closest advisors. And the Queen has no memory of who she was before," Hana added. "That seems convenient." "What do you mean?" Taman took a breath. "Queen Aran. Before she was queen, she was a scientist. A xenobiologist who discovered evidence of this conspiracy. She was going to expose it." Bora's eyes widened. "You're saying they erased her memory and made her queen to silence her?" "To control her," Taman corrected. "Dead, she might have inspired questions. But alive, with no memory of her past, she becomes a puppet. Someone they can guide and manipulate. That's monstrous." "That's war profiteering," Hana said grimly. "Nothing matters except the profit." Bora sat down heavily. "If this is true, if the Queen has been manipulated this entire time, then our entire government is compromised. Peace negotiations, trade agreements, everything could be influenced by these conspirators. That's why we need proof," Taman said. "Something concrete that can't be denied. And we need to find out if there's a way to restore the Queen's memories." "Memory restoration is theoretically possible," Bora said slowly, "but it's dangerous. The procedure could kill her, or worse, leave her with fragmented memories and no sense of self. She wants to try anyway. She knows. I told her yesterday. She found her own files about the memory wipe. She's looking for answers too." Bora stood and paced. "This is bigger than I thought. If the Queen is actively investigating and if Dowan suspects, he'll move against her. Against all of you." "Then we need to move first," Hana said. "Find the evidence. Expose the conspiracy. Restore the Queen's memory. But we need more help. We can't do this alone." "There's someone," Bora said. "Dr. Jiwoo. She's human, part of the medical team that came with your delegation. She's a neural specialist. If anyone can help restore the Queen's memory, it's her." Taman nodded. "We'll contact her. But first we need to access the palace archives. There must be records of what happened to Aran, orders for her capture, documentation of the memory procedure. The archives are heavily guarded," Bora warned. "You'll need the Queen's authorization to access the classified sections. Then we'll get it," Taman said. That night, Taman met Aran in the gardens again. It was becoming their place, this quiet corner where no one thought to look for a queen speaking with a human diplomat. She wore a simple cloak, her crown left behind in her chambers. "I found something," she said, showing him the bracelet. "I don't remember it, but I know it's important." Taman's breath caught. "I made that for you. 6 years ago. You said it was the first gift anyone had ever made you by hand." He reached out, then pulled back, remembering himself. You wore it every day, Aaron touched the rough weave. Tell me more. Tell me who I was, so he did. He told her about the scientist who cared more about discovery than politics. About the woman who had laughed at his terrible pronunciation of Veltaran words. About the nights they spent talking about a future without war. About the day she kissed him and told him she didn't care that he was human, that love transcended species. Aaron listened with tears streaming down her face. I want to remember that, all of it. Not just the facts, but the feelings, what it was like to be her. We're working on it, Taman said, but I need your help. We need access to the palace archives, the classified sections that even most officials can't reach. Done. What else? Dr. Jiwoo. She needs to examine you, assess if memory restoration is possible. Bring her tomorrow. I'll claim it's for a routine medical check. Aaron paused. Taman, if this works, if I remember everything, will I still be me? The Queen? You'll be both, Taman said. The person you were and the person you became. That's what makes you strong. And us? If I remember what we had. He looked at her. This woman who was his Aaron, but also someone new. I don't expect anything. You're not the same person I knew. You've lived 5 years as someone else. You've grown and changed. If you remember and decide you don't want... She put a hand over his mouth, stopping him. The touch sent electricity through both of them. Let me remember first, then we'll see. The next day, Dr. Jiwoo arrived at the palace under the guise of a medical consultation. She was a stern woman in her 50s, all business and no nonsense. Taman had served with her brother during the war and she owed him a favor. This is insane, she said, scanning Aaron with her equipment. You're asking me to reverse advanced neural manipulation on an alien species. I'm good, but I'm not that good. But it's possible? Aaron pressed. Possible, yes. Safe? Absolutely not. The neural pathways in your brain have been rewritten. Restoring the old ones while keeping the new ones intact is like trying to rebuild a house while people are living in it. One wrong move and everything collapses. I'll take that risk. Jiwoo looked at her sharply. You could die, or end up with severe brain damage, or remember everything and go insane from the trauma. Are you sure? I'm sure. Then I'll need equipment. Advanced scanners, neural stabilizers, a surgical bay. And I'll need to do more tests. This will take time. We don't have time, Taman said. If Dowan suspects what we're doing, then you'll have a dead queen on your hands, Jiwoo snapped. Medicine doesn't work on political timelines. Give me 3 days to prepare or I walk away. Aaron nodded. 3 days. But no longer. Every moment I spend not knowing who I am is a moment they're still winning. Those 3 days felt like an eternity. Taman and Hana, with Bora's help, infiltrated the palace archives. They found the records they needed. Orders signed by Dowan and others. Proof of the conspiracy. Evidence that Aaron had been captured, not killed, and transformed into a useful tool. But they also found something else. Plans. Current plans for how to handle the peace negotiations. How to ensure both sides remained weak and dependent on military contracts. How to profit from peace the same way they had profited from war. They're not going to let this treaty succeed, Hana said, reading through the files. At least not in any way that actually helps people. They'll make sure both sides stay armed, stay suspicious, stay ready to fight again. Then we end this, Taman said. We expose everything. We show both sides what's been done to them. With what proof? These are classified files we stole. They'll call it fabricated. Then we give them something they can't deny. We give them their queen, whole and remembering. A living witness. 3 days passed. The equipment was ready. Dr. Jiwoo was as prepared as she could be. And Aaron, with Taman holding her hand, lay down to reclaim her stolen past. The peace negotiations had reached a breaking point. 3 days into the discussions, and the two sides were further apart than when they started. Ambassador Minho sat across from Lord Dowan and other Veltaran officials, listening to demands that would cripple human colonies for generations. Your people destroyed 17 of our worlds, Dowan said, his voice cold. The reparations we ask are more than fair. Fair? Minho's calm was cracking. You're asking for 30% of our agricultural output for 20 years. Our colonies would starve. Then perhaps your people should have thought of that before starting the war. Taman watched this exchange from his seat beside the ambassador. He had been quiet throughout the morning session, his mind elsewhere. But now he spoke. Which one of your worlds did humans destroy first? He asked. Dowan turned to him with irritation. What? You said we destroyed 17 worlds. Which was the first? What date? What were the casualties? This information is well documented. Then it should be easy to answer. Taman stood. Because I've been studying the war timeline. The first world destroyed was Tarev 3. But it wasn't destroyed by humans. It was destroyed by a Veltaran weapons malfunction. Your own military records confirm this, though they buried it. The room went silent. Doan's face darkened. You're reading classified documents? That's an act of war. No, it's an act of truth. Taman pulled out a data crystal. The war was built on lies. On both sides. Incidents were fabricated. Attacks were staged. All to keep both peoples fighting while certain individuals profited. Outrageous accusations. Are you saying this isn't your signature? Taman projected a hologram. It showed an order, signed by Dowan, authorizing weapon sales to human separatist groups during the war. You armed both sides. You made sure the fighting continued. Dowan stood so fast his chair toppled. Where did you get that? From people who care more about truth than profit. Those are fabrications. Forgeries meant to undermine. The door opened. Queen Erin entered, flanked by palace guards. She looked different than usual. Her eyes were harder, more certain. She carried herself with a confidence that seemed both new and ancient. They're not forgeries, she said quietly. I've verified them myself. Lord Dowan, you're under arrest for treason, conspiracy, and crimes against the Veltaran people. Dowan laughed. You have no authority to arrest me. I am your advisor, appointed by you, Erin interrupted. You and your co-conspirators. You made me queen thinking I would be easy to control. A woman with no memory of her past, no connections, no power base except what you provided. She moved closer to him. But you made a mistake. You left evidence, and you underestimated humanity. Your Majesty, Dowan said, his voice becoming smooth, persuasive. Whatever these humans have told you, it's lies designed to divide us, to make you doubt your own people. You must see that. I see perfectly clearly now. Erin gestured, and the guards seized Dowan. He struggled, but they held firm. Take him to the holding cells. He'll face trial for his crimes. As Dowan was dragged away, shouting protests, the other Veltaran officials sat in stunned silence. Finally, one of them spoke. Your Majesty, what is happening? What crimes? The war that took so many of our children, our loved ones, our futures, Erin said, her voice carrying through the room. It was prolonged deliberately, by people on both sides who saw profit in death. Lord Dowan was one of them. But he's not alone. She projected more documents, financial records, communications, proof of a conspiracy that spanned both species. The Veltaran officials read in growing horror. Minho stood. Your Majesty, the human government will cooperate fully in investigating these allegations. If our own officials are involved, they will face justice as well. See that they do, Erin said. This ends now. The profiteering, the manipulation, all of it. We will have real peace, not the false peace these conspirators wanted, where both sides remain armed and afraid. Actual peace. One of the officials, an older woman, looked at Erin with new respect. Your Majesty, I have served 3 monarchs. I've never seen one act so decisively. How did you uncover all of this? Erin glanced at Taman. I had help. From someone who never stopped looking for the truth, even when it cost him everything. The negotiations took on a different tone after that. Without Dowan's influence, the other Veltaran officials were more reasonable. They began discussing real terms. Fair reparations, shared technology, cultural exchanges. The things that would actually build a lasting peace. But Taman knew this was just the beginning. Dowan was one man. The conspiracy was much larger. That night there was an attack. Taman was in his quarters reviewing documents with Hana when the explosion rocked the palace. Alarms blared. The lights went out, replaced by emergency lighting that cast everything in red. What's happening? Hana grabbed her weapon. They're making their move, Taman said grimly. Dowan's allies. They know we're exposing them. This is their response, more explosions. Closer now. Through the window, Taman saw armed figures moving through the palace grounds. Not palace guards, mercenaries probably, well-equipped and organized. We need to reach the queen, he said. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and chaos. Palace guards were fighting the attackers, but they were outnumbered. Taman and Hana joined the defense, their training kicking in. Human soldiers fought differently than Veltarans. Where the aliens relied on strength and energy weapons, humans used tactics, speed, and adaptability. Taemin dropped one attacker with a shot to the leg, then used the body as cover while Hana flanked two more. They moved through the palace like water, finding paths where the aliens saw only walls. "This is what humans do best," Hana shouted over the sounds of battle. "Survive against impossible odds." They reached the queen's chambers to find her guards already dead. The door was breached. Inside, 3 mercenaries were advancing on Eren, who stood her ground with a ceremonial blade. Taemin didn't think. He just moved. He tackled the nearest mercenary, using the alien's own momentum to throw him into the wall. Hana shot the second. The third turned on them, but Eren struck from behind, her blade finding the gap in his armor. For a moment, they all stood in the ruined chamber breathing hard. "You came," Eren said, looking at Taemin. "Always." "Your Majesty, we need to move," Hana urged. "This place isn't secure." But Eren shook her head. "No, I'm done hiding. I'm done being passive. If they want to kill me, let them come, but I'm going to address my people first." She walked to her private communication console and activated it. Within seconds, her face was being broadcast across every screen in the Veltaran Empire. "My people," she said, and her voice was steady despite the chaos around her. "Tonight, those who profit from war have attacked your palace. They seek to kill your queen and derail the peace. They do this because we discovered their crimes, because we learned that the war that took so many from us was prolonged deliberately, for profit, for power." Explosions continued in the background of the broadcast. Eren didn't flinch. "I stand here with Captain Taemin of Earth. 6 years ago, before I was queen, he and I worked together to expose this conspiracy. We were stopped. My memory was erased and I was made into a puppet. But the truth cannot stay buried forever. Tonight I remember everything, and I will not be silent." She held up the data crystals containing all the evidence. "This is proof of their crimes. These records will be made public. Every name, every transaction, every lie. Let the galaxy see what was done to us." She ended the transmission and looked at Taemin. "Now what?" "Now we fight," he said. "And we show them what happens when you underestimate humans and the people they love." The battle for the palace lasted through the night. The mercenaries were well armed and well trained, but they hadn't counted on human tactics. Taemin and Hana, along with the rest of the human security team, turned the palace into a maze of ambushes and traps. They used the crystal architecture against the attackers, reflecting light and sound to create confusion. They set up crossfires in narrow corridors where numbers didn't matter. They fell back and regrouped, never staying in one place, always moving, always adapting. "This is the human element," Taemin explained to a young Veltaran guard they were fighting alongside. "We're not stronger. We're not more advanced, but we're stubborn. We don't know when to quit, and we're really creative about violence when we need to be." By dawn, the attack was broken. The mercenaries either dead, captured, or fled. The palace was damaged but standing, and Eren stood on her balcony watching the sun rise over her crystal city, with Taemin beside her. "The evidence is public now," she said. "People are demanding answers. The Veltaran military has arrested several high-ranking officials. Your government is doing the same." "It's just the beginning," Taemin warned. "These people won't go quietly. There will be more attacks, more attempts to silence us. Let them come." Eren's hand found his. "I'm not alone anymore. I remember who I am, who we were, and who we can still be." Taemin looked at their joined hands. "The memory procedure worked?" "Dr. Jiwoo is brilliant. It worked. I remember everything." She turned to him and her eyes were wet. "I remember falling in love with you. I remember thinking you had the kindest smile I'd ever seen. I remember being so afraid when you were captured, thinking I'd never see you again. Eren." The memory restoration procedure had been scheduled for 3 days from now, but events forced their hand. After the attack on the palace, Dr. Jiwoo pulled Taemin aside with urgent news. "We need to do this now," she said, her face grave. "I've been analyzing the Queen's neural patterns. The stress from recent events is causing her suppressed memories to push through violently. If we don't do the procedure soon, her mind might fragment on its own." "How soon?" "Tonight. Tomorrow at the latest. Any longer, and we risk permanent damage." Taemin found Eren in what remained of her private study. She was sitting among broken crystal and scattered documents, holding the bracelet he had made her. "Jiwoo says we need to do the procedure now." he said. Aaron nodded. I know. I can feel it. My head hurts all the time now, and I keep having flashes, images that don't fit with my memories as Queen. This morning, I remembered your face covered in blood. You were dying, and I was trying to save you. But I don't remember it. Not really. It's like watching someone else's life. She looked up at him. I'm scared, Taman. What if it doesn't work? What if I lose what little I have left? He sat beside her, careful not to touch. They had been careful about that since the attack. Too much was at stake to let personal feelings cloud judgment. What if it does work? What if you remember everything? Then I'll remember loving you, but I won't be the same person who felt that love. 5 years have passed. I've changed. You've changed. What if the memories don't match who we are now? Then we figure it out, Taman said simply. Together or apart. But at least you'll know the truth. At least you'll be whole. Aaron was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Tell me something. From before, something good. Taman thought back. There was a night about 4 months after I crashed. You had been working on a cure for a disease affecting the local wildlife. You'd been in the lab for days, barely sleeping. I brought you food, and you were so frustrated because nothing was working. What happened? I convinced you to take a break. We went outside even though it was dangerous. There was a meteor shower that night. We sat on the roof of your lab and watched stars fall across the sky. You told me about Veltaran constellation myths. I told you about Earths, and you said... His voice caught. You said that maybe the universe put us in each other's paths for a reason. That maybe some things were meant to transcend war and species and all the things that divide us. Aaron's eyes were wet. That sounds like something I would say. Or would have said. I don't know anymore. The person you were and the person you are aren't that different, Taman said. I've seen you these past few days. The way you care about your people. The way you search for truth. The way you're willing to risk everything for what's right. That's the Aaron I knew. That's the Aaron sitting beside me now. She smiled, just a little. You always knew what to say to make me feel better. Actually, I usually said the wrong thing. You just liked me anyway. That made her laugh, and the sound was beautiful and sad at the same time. That evening, they gathered in a secure medical facility beneath the palace. Dr. Jiwoo had set up her equipment with the help of Bora and several trusted Veltaran physicians. Hana stood guard at the door with a team of soldiers, both human and Veltaran. If Dawan's allies tried another attack, they would be ready. Ambassador Minho arrived just before the procedure began. The human government wants you to know they support this, he told Aaron. Whatever you remember, whatever you decide to do, Earth stands with you. Thank you, Aaron said. She was lying on a medical table, surrounded by machines that hummed and beeped. Tell them I appreciate their faith in me. Minho left, and it was just Aaron, Taman, Jiwoo, and Bora. The doctor ran final checks on her equipment while Bora prepared neural stabilizers. Last chance to back out, Jiwoo said. No backing out, Aaron replied. Let's do this. Jiwoo looked at Taman. I need you to leave. If something goes wrong, I can't have distractions. No. Aaron's hand shot out and grabbed Taman's. He stays, please, I need him here. Jiwoo hesitated, then nodded. Fine. But stay out of my way. The procedure began. Jiwoo placed neural sensors on Aaron's head while Bora administered a series of injections. The machines began to glow, connecting to Aaron's nervous system. What you're going to experience, Jiwoo explained, is essentially your brain rewriting itself. The new pathways we created when we wiped your memory will be integrated with the old ones. It's going to hurt a lot, and you need to stay conscious through it. Why? Because your mind needs to process both sets of memories simultaneously. If you go unconscious, the integration could fail, and you'll wake up with neither identity intact. Aaron's hand tightened on Taman's. Okay, I'm ready. Jiwoo activated the machine. Aaron's entire body went rigid. Her skin, which usually glowed softly, flared bright enough to hurt Taemin's eyes. She made a sound, half scream and half sob. "Talk to her," Jiwoo said, her hands flying over the controls. "Keep her grounded, she needs an anchor." Taemin moved closer, still holding her hand. "I'm here, I'm right here." Erin's eyes opened, but they didn't focus. "It hurts." "I know. But you're strong. The strongest person I know. Tell me. Tell me something. From before." So Taemin talked. He told her about their first meeting, when she'd been annoyed at finding a dying human in her laboratory. He told her about teaching her to swear in English, and her teaching him to cook Velterran food. He told her about arguments they'd had, about differences they'd worked through, about the moment he realized he loved her and was too scared to say it. "You were explaining something about particle physics," he said, watching her writhe in pain but forcing himself to keep talking. "And you were so excited about it, your skin was glowing brighter with each word. And I thought, I am completely hopelessly in love with this brilliant alien who cares more about science than war. And I was terrified because I knew I couldn't have you. We were enemies, it was impossible. But you told me anyway," Erin gasped out. "In the lab, after the explosion." Taemin froze. "You remember that?" "I remember. There was an attack. Bombs. The lab was damaged. You pulled me out. We were hiding in the storage room. You thought you were going to die, so you told me." She was remembering. "It was working." "What did I say?" Taemin asked, his voice rough. "You said." Erin's eyes finally focused on him. "You said you loved me, that you knew it was stupid and impossible and probably insane, but you loved me anyway, and I said..." She laughed, even as tears streamed down her face. "I said I knew, that I'd known for weeks, that I was just waiting for you to catch up. Then what happened? Then I kissed you, and told you we weren't going to die, that we were going to survive and end this war and build something better, together." The machines around them were going wild. Jiwoo was shouting something, but Taemin didn't hear it. He was focused entirely on Erin, on the way her eyes were, clearing, on the way she was looking at him with recognition and love and pain all mixed together. "Keep going," Bora urged. "It's working. Keep her talking." "Tell me about after," Erin said, still gripping his hand like a lifeline. "Tell me what happened after we were separated." "I was captured by my own forces, court-martialed for desertion. I tried to tell them about the conspiracy, but no one believed me. They thought I'd been brainwashed by you. It took months to convince them I was telling the truth. And then I looked for you. For 2 years I searched. I used every contact, every favor, every resource I had. But you were gone. No records. Nothing. I thought you were dead. I thought they'd killed you for helping me. They did something worse," Erin said softly. "They erased me, made me into someone useful. But you're still here, still you." "I'm both." Erin's breathing was becoming more regular. The pain seemed to be easing. "I remember being the scientist. I remember loving you. But I also remember the last 5 years. Learning to rule, making decisions, becoming queen. I'm both people now. Is that okay? I don't know. Ask me when this is over and I can think straight." The procedure lasted 3 more hours. By the end, Erin was exhausted, her skin barely glowing. But her eyes were clear, alert, whole. "How do you feel?" Jiwoo asked, running final scans. "Like I got hit by a transport ship, but intact." Erin sat up slowly. "I remember everything, my childhood, my education, meeting Taemin, being captured, the memory wipe, waking up as queen, all of it. Any gaps? Confusion? No. It's all there. Like 2 lives lived simultaneously." She looked at Taemin. "I need to rest, but we need to talk, soon. Whenever you're ready." They moved Erin to a secure recovery room. Taemin stayed nearby, sleeping in a chair outside her door. Hana brought him food and updates on the political situation. Dowan's allies are in chaos, she reported. Your Queen's broadcast worked. People are demanding investigations. The Velteron military has arrested over 30 officials. Human authorities are doing the same. Good. But it's not over. There's still a lot of people with a lot to lose. They're going to fight back. Let them, Taman said tiredly. We'll be ready. The next morning, Erin woke. She called Taman into her room and dismissed everyone else. They sat together in silence for a moment. I remember loving you, she said finally, but I also remember the last 5 years without you. Learning to be strong on my own, building a life even. The procedure had worked, but its success brought immediate danger. Within hours of Erin's recovery, intelligence reports flooded in. Lord Dowan's co-conspirators were mobilizing, not just in the Velteran Empire, but across human space as well. The military-industrial complex that had profited from war was preparing to protect its interests. They're going to try again, Hana said, studying tactical displays in the secure command center they'd set up beneath the palace. Bigger this time. They know we have evidence. They know the Queen remembers everything. They have to silence us now or lose everything. Ambassador Minho paced the room, looking older than his years. I've received word from Earth. 3 senators have been arrested for their involvement in the conspiracy. 2 more are missing, probably fled. The military is conducting its own internal investigation. It's chaos. Good, Erin said. She stood at the center of the room, flanked by loyal Velteron guards and human security personnel. Chaos means change is happening. It's the order we need to worry about. The careful, controlled order that hid their crimes for so long. Taman was at a terminal, coordinating with Dr. Jiwoo and Instructor Bora. They had spent the last day copying and distributing the evidence to multiple secure locations. If the conspirators tried to destroy the data, they would fail. The truth was already spreading. The question is how they'll come at us, Taman said. They tried a small strike team before. It failed. What's their next move? They'll go bigger, a voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. A Velteran officer stood there, one Taman didn't recognize. She was older, with scars that spoke of many battles. Her uniform marked her as a fleet commander. Commander Sora, Erin said, surprise in her voice. I didn't know you were on planet. I arrived this morning after seeing your broadcast. Sora moved into the room with military precision. I came to offer my fleet's support. But I also came to warn you. Several military units have gone dark. Ships that were in orbit have changed position, and there are reports of mercenary vessels massing at the system's edge. How many ships are we talking about? Hana asked. At least 40, probably more. A mix of Velteron defectors and human privateers. They're planning a full assault on the capital. The room went silent. 40 ships was more than a raid. It was an invasion. When? Erin asked, her voice steady despite the implications. Tomorrow at dawn. Maybe sooner if they think we're preparing for them. Minho's face went pale. We need to evacuate. Get the Queen off-world to somewhere safe. No, Erin said firmly. I run now and they win. I abandon my people to save myself, and I'm no better than they are. Your Majesty, please be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm the one they want. If I stay, if I fight, I give my people something to rally around, a reason to resist. She looked at Sora. How many loyal ships do we have? My fleet is 12 vessels. Strong, but not enough against 40. Then we need to even the odds, Taman said, an idea forming. We can't match their numbers. But we don't need to. We just need to survive long enough for help to arrive. What help? Hana asked. Every ship in this system. Every vessel that's here for trade, research, or diplomacy. If we can convince them that this conspiracy threatens everyone, not just us, they'll fight. That's a lot of maybes, Minho said skeptically. It's what we have, Taman replied. The human way isn't about having the best odds. It's about making impossible situations work anyway. Erin smiled. Then let's be human about this. Commander Sora, can you contact the other ships in orbit? I can try. But most won't want to get involved in what looks like a civil war. Tell them it's not a civil war. It's a criminal enterprise trying to overthrow legitimate government. Tell them we have proof. And tell them that if these conspirators win here, they'll spread their influence everywhere. Today it's the Veltaran throne. Tomorrow it's their own governments. Sora nodded and left to make the calls. Erin turned to her remaining advisors. We need to fortify the palace, prepare for siege, and we need to move the civilians to shelters. The palace wasn't designed as a fortress, one advisor protested. Then we redesign it, Taman said. We have human engineers and Veltaran architects. We have one night to make this place defensible. So let's get to work. The next 18 hours were frantic. Human soldiers, used to improvising defenses in hostile territory, worked alongside Veltaran troops to turn the palace into a stronghold. They reinforced walls with whatever materials they could find, set up weapons emplacements at strategic points, created fallback positions and escape routes. Dr. Jiwoo and her medical team set up field hospitals. Bora organized civilian evacuations, getting non-combatants to underground shelters. Hana drilled mixed human Veltaran units in defensive tactics, and Taman worked with Aaron to coordinate it all, their partnership as natural as breathing. When she gave orders, he helped implement them. When he suggested tactics, she understood immediately. They were two parts of the same mind, working toward the same goal. This is insane, Aaron said at one point, watching their preparations from a high balcony. We're preparing to fight a war in my own capital. This is necessary, Taman corrected gently. And you're not alone in it. She leaned against him just for a moment. I keep thinking about what you said. About humans surviving impossible odds. Is that really what defines you? That and stubbornness, and a tendency to laugh at things that should terrify us. He looked at her. What defines the Veltarans? Unity, shared purpose. We're a telepathic species at our core. We work best when we're connected. She paused. But I'm learning that there's strength in individuality too. In choosing your own path even when others say it's impossible. You've always been good at that, Taman said. Even before you remembered. The queen who stood up to Dowan was the same person as the scientist who hid me in her lab. Same courage, same refusal to accept easy answers. Commander Sora returned with news. I've contacted every ship in orbit. Most won't commit to fighting, but 20 vessels have agreed to help defend the planet. It's not much, but combined with my fleet, we have 32 ships against their 40. Better odds than we had an hour ago, Hana said. What kind of ships? Mix of everything. Trade vessels with light weapons. A few exploration ships with decent shields. 2 human destroyer escorts that were passing through. And surprisingly, a krill mining ship with some very illegal weapons modifications. The krill captain is that big one with the scarred face? Taman asked. I met him at the reception. He lost family in the war. That's the one. He said anyone trying to profit from war deserves what's coming to them. As night fell, the city grew quiet. Civilians had been evacuated or sheltered. The streets were empty except for patrol units. In the palace, defenders waited at their posts, checking weapons and equipment. Taman found Aaron in what remained of the throne room. She was looking at the damaged crystal walls, touching places where explosions had scarred the stone. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, she admitted. I've never commanded an actual battle before. I've made political decisions that affected millions, but this is different. People are going to die tomorrow because I chose to fight instead of run. People were already dying. The conspiracy made sure of that. At least now they die fighting for truth instead of lies. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No. It's supposed to remind you why we're doing this. Aaron turned to face him. If we lose tomorrow, if they kill us both, was it worth it? Exposing the conspiracy? Trying to build something better? Yes, Taman said without hesitation. Because even if we fail, others will continue. We've proven the truth exists. We've shown that people from different worlds can work together. That's worth dying for. Very human of you. Very Aaron of you to ask the question. She smiled, then kissed him. It was brief but intense, carrying all the fear and hope and love that words couldn't express. When they parted, she said, If we survive this, I want to show you the northern continent. It's beautiful there. Crystal forests that sing in the wind. I used to go there when I was younger before everything happened. It's a date, Taman promised. At 3 in the morning, the sensors detected movement. The enemy fleet was approaching ahead of schedule. All units to battle stations. Sora's voice echoed through the palace. They're coming in fast. Looks like they want to catch us sleeping. But no one was sleeping. Defenders rushed to their positions. In orbit, the Allied ships moved into defensive formation. On the ground, weapons powered up. The first wave hit just before dawn. Enemy ships broke atmosphere and began bombing runs on the palace. But Sora's fleet was ready, intercepting them with coordinated fire. The space battle lit up the sky like fireworks. They're trying to overwhelm our orbital defenses, Hana reported from the tactical center. Once they control the sky, they'll land troops. How long can we hold orbit? Aaron asked. Maybe an hour. Their ships are more aggressive than I expected. They're taking losses but pressing hard. On the ground, the first dropships landed in the city. Enemy soldiers poured out, moving toward the palace in organized formations. But they met resistance immediately. The mixed human Veltaran units Hana had trained engaged them in the streets, using the urban terrain to negate the enemy's numbers advantage. This is what we prepared for, Hana said, watching tactical displays. 3 months after the battle, the galaxy looked different, not in obvious ways. The stars still shone. Ships still traveled between worlds, but something fundamental had shifted. People were asking questions, demanding answers, refusing to accept the easy lies they'd been fed for so long. Taman stood in what used to be Lord Dowan's office, now converted into a war crimes tribunal. The room was packed with observers from dozens of species. Dowan himself sat in a containment field flanked by guards. He looked smaller than Taman remembered, less threatening. Just a greedy man who had caused so much pain. The evidence is overwhelming, the judge said. She was a Veltaran with gray skin and eyes that had seen too much. You conspired to prolong a war that killed millions. You erased a woman's identity to make her your puppet. You ordered attacks on civilians, on your own people, to protect your profits. How do you plead? Dowan said nothing. What could he say? The data crystals didn't lie. The financial records traced everything back to him and his network. Guilty on all counts, the judge declared. You will spend the rest of your life in a maximum security facility. Your assets are seized. Your family name is stripped. You are no longer Veltaran. You are nothing. To Taman's people, exile from society was the worst punishment imaginable. Worse than death. Dawan's face crumpled, but Taman felt no satisfaction. Just tired acceptance. Justice wasn't supposed to feel good. It was just supposed to be done. Outside the tribunal, reporters swarmed. The trial had been broadcast across the galaxy. Other arrests were happening on human worlds, on Veltaran colonies, on the space stations where the conspiracy's money had flowed. Captain Taman, a reporter called. How does it feel to see justice served? Like the beginning, Taman said carefully. Not the end. We've exposed the conspiracy, but now comes the harder work. Rebuilding trust. Creating systems that prevent this from happening again. That takes longer than any trial. And your relationship with Queen Erin? Is it true you two were involved during the war? Taman smiled. That's a question for the Queen. He found Erin in the peace conference chamber. The real negotiations were happening now, not the false ones Dowan had orchestrated. Representatives from both species sat together, working through genuine grievances and finding real solutions. The reparations have been agreed, Erin told him, reviewing documents on her datapad. Both sides pay into a joint fund for reconstruction. No one side bearing all the burden. And we've established oversight committees to prevent military contractors from profiting the way they did before. Will it work? Maybe, probably, hopefully. She looked up at him. We're trying something new. Transparency instead of secrecy. Cooperation instead of competition. It's messy and slow and frustrating. But it's real. Very human, Taman observed. Very hopeful, Erin corrected. Which I've learned is also very human. Ambassador Minho approached with Hana at his side. Both of them looked exhausted but satisfied. The treaty is ready for signing, Minho said. All parties have agreed. We'll have the ceremony tomorrow. Tomorrow, Erin repeated. After 6 years of false peace and conspiracy, we'll finally have something genuine. That night, there was a celebration in the palace. Not a formal affair, but something spontaneous. Soldiers from both species sharing stories and drinks. Diplomats laughing together. Medical staff finally able to rest. The crystal walls had been repaired, but they'd left some scars visible. Reminders of what they'd fought for. Taman found himself on the balcony where he'd first spoken privately with Erin months ago. She joined him carrying 2 glasses of wine. Thinking? She asked, remembering. 6 years ago I crashed on this world expecting to die. Instead I found you. Found purpose. Found a reason to keep fighting. And now? Now I'm wondering what comes next. The war is over. The conspiracy is exposed. The treaty will be signed. What do we do after? Erin was quiet for a moment, looking out over her city. I've been offered a position. Ambassador to Earth. Building cultural bridges between our peoples. It would mean leaving Veltara, Spending years on your homeworld. Taman's heart jumped. What did you say? I haven't answered yet. Because I wanted to ask you something first. She turned to face him. Would you come with me? Not as a diplomat or soldier, but as yourself, as someone who wants to build this peace as much as I do. I'm already yours, Taman said simply. Wherever you go, I go. Even if it means leaving military service? Starting something completely new? Especially then. I've had enough of war for several lifetimes. Aaron smiled and kissed him. When they parted, she said, There's something else. Dr. Jiwoo has been studying the memory restoration procedure. She thinks it could be refined, made safer. Used to help others who've had their identities erased by war or trauma. That's incredible. She wants to start a research institute. Joint Human Velteran Project. Studying consciousness, memory, identity. She asked if I wanted to be involved. Aaron's eyes lit up in the way they always did when she talked about science. I could be a scientist again. Not instead of being queen or ambassador, but alongside it. Using everything I've learned to help others. That's very you, Taman said. Both versions of you. I'm just one person now, Aaron said. Not the scientist or the queen. Just Aaron, who happens to remember being both and wants to be something new. The next day, the treaty signing was held in a newly built peace hall. The old throne room had too much history, too many associations with the conspiracy. This was a fresh start. Representatives from Earth and Veltara signed first. Then representatives from the other species who had helped, who had seen the truth and chosen to support it. It took hours. But when it was done, the galaxy had something it hadn't had in 7 years. Real peace. After the ceremony, Taman walked with instructor Bora through the palace gardens. The old scholar had become a friend over the past months. You did good work, she told him. My son would have been proud. To know his death wasn't meaningless. That the truth came out eventually. I wish I could have saved him, Taman said. No one could have saved him. The conspiracy was too deep, too organized. But you made sure his death mattered. That's all any of us can hope for. They walked in comfortable silence until Bora said, You know what I think is the most human thing about this whole affair? What? You didn't give up. Even when Aaron was lost. Even when everyone said the conspiracy didn't exist. Even when it would have been easier to just accept the false peace and move on. You kept searching, kept fighting, kept hoping. That's not just human, Taman protested. Aaron did the same. She fought to remember even when it nearly killed her. Sora fought even when outnumbered. People of every species stood up when it mattered. True, Bora acknowledged. But you started it. One stubborn human who refused to forget the woman he loved. That's the spark that lit all of this. That's what makes it a human story. It's not just my story, Taman said firmly. It's Aaron's story. Hana's, Sora's, Jiwoo's, yours. Everyone who chose truth over comfort. That's not about species. That's about character, Bora smiled. Maybe. But there's a reason the galaxy calls stories like this HFY, humanity beyond all odds. Humanity refusing to quit. Humanity turning impossible situations into victories through sheer stubborn determination. What does the F stand for? Taman asked, knowing the answer but wanting to hear her say it. Use your imagination, Bora said with a wink. But personally, I think it stands for forward. Humanity moving forward. No matter what. That evening, as the celebrations continued, Taman and Aaron found themselves back in the laboratory where they'd first met. It had been restored, turned into a memorial and museum. Plaques explained what had happened here, how two people from warring species had found common ground, how love and truth had survived when everything else seemed lost. It feels strange seeing our story on display, Aaron said, touching a hologram of her younger self. It's not just our story anymore, Taman replied. It's everyone's, a reminder that peace is possible, that people can change, that nothing is truly hopeless. Very inspirational. Did Minho write that speech for you? I'm serious. I know. Aaron took his hand. And you're right. We're not just us anymore. We're symbols, which is terrifying and exhausting and not what I wanted when I was a simple scientist who just liked studying alien life. Is it worth it? Yes, because look what happened. Real change, real peace. People working together instead of being manipulated apart. She leaned her head on his shoulder. And I got you back. A different you, maybe, but still you. A different us, Taman agreed. Starting something new. 6 months later, Taman and Aaron stood in front of Earth's United Assembly. They'd come as ambassadors, but also as witnesses, to tell their story, to show what was possible when people chose connection over division. The conspiracy wanted us to fear each other, Aaron said to the assembled representatives, to see only differences, to believe peace was impossible. But we proved them wrong, not because we were special or chosen, but because we chose to try. Humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or warfare, Taman added. It's hope. The refusal to accept that bad situations must stay bad. The determination to make things better even when the odds say otherwise. That's what defines us, not as humans but as people, any species, any world, anyone who decides that tomorrow can be better than today.